Oh, what's going on, people? I know I just dropped a video, so why not drop another one in 10 seconds? I got a question on the load board video I just dropped from Nerds. Wanting to know, once I've decided on a load, that process, those, what the steps that when you call the broker. To be honest with you, it's a relatively simple process. You're going to call the broker. If there's a reference number listed on the load board, you're going to give them that. If not, generally you just give them, like my opening line is usually, you have a load posted on DAT, picking up here, delivering here on this day, picking up on this day. And usually they can look it up by that. If there's a reference number they need and it's on there, they might ask you for that. Either way, they're going to look it up, and then they're going to give you the details, what time it's picking up on that pickup date, the delivery date and time. At that point, I'm usually doing a quick trip plan. If it's like a ridiculously tight window, I'm pretty much ready to move on. But generally the windows aren't. I think I've run into one where the window was like, how in the world do you expect anybody to run that unless they do 90 mile an hour and never stop, and don't follow the hours of service. But generally, the windows are normal. But you want to know that, because if they're trying to, if they're looking for a super trucker to run it, it might be a window you don't want to do. It might be delivering or picking up at a time you don't want to do. That's things you're gonna figure out as you go, or however you run. So yeah, they're gonna go over the details of the pickup, delivery times and days. Usually on the load board, if there's any extras that they're looking for, like driver assist on loading or unloading, or sometimes they'll tell you they want you to drop the trailer at the shipper for 24, or they want to drop it at the receiver for 24 to 72 hours. I've seen those. These are other things, and if you decide that still might be something you want to do, you're going to want to build in money, because every day you're sitting and waiting for them to unload you or load that trailer, you're not getting anything unless you build it into the rate. Now usually on loads like that, the rate's already higher than normal, but you got to decide, overall, is that gonna compensate you? So you might see those things if you're not posted on the load board. Usually they'll tell you that at the beginning of the conversation. And then once you get to that point, they're going to generally either go one of two ways. They're going to tell you what the rate is that they're looking to move it for, or they're going to ask you, what do you need to move it for? Now, if they ask you what do you need to move it for, and you've already come up with your minimum number, I usually add a couple $100 to that. If they're going to start negotiation on what I want, I'm going to tell you what I want, and then we can go from there. If they can't meet it, obviously, that can't be met. But what it does at that point is it makes, like, say your minimum number is 2, and they say, well, what do you need to move it? Well, I'd like to see 22. And they come back, well, I really don't have that much into it. We could go, just as a reference, 18. Well, can you meet me in the middle at 2? And sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't. But you're getting closer to your minimum number. Even if they come back and say, well, we might be able to do it for 19 or 1950, you're real close to your minimum number. Now you can decide, generally based on where it's going as to whether or not I would accept below my minimum. An area that I'm coming out of, that determines a lot. Like I'm coming out of Phoenix right now, so obviously I didn't get my minimum number. But I got a good number, a real good number for where it's coming out of. But during the negotiating on the rate, if they're going to ask you what you want, tell them what you want and negotiate from there. If you can't come to a number that makes you feel good about it, move on. Tell them thank you, I appreciate your time, but I don't think I'll take the load, and move on. Just go find something else. Go back to the load board and start looking again. The other way it goes is they give you the details, and then they'll give you what the rate is they're looking to move it for. And again, that's where the negotiating starts. Most times, if they give you a rate right out the gate, or even if they post one on the load board, it's going to be a low ball kind of a number, and you can try to move it up from there. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. If you can't, not a big deal. Again, decide, do you want to take it for what they're offering, or do you want to move on and just politely end the phone call and keep looking? It's just the way it goes. Now, for me, when I'm talking to the broker, there's only a couple questions I really want to know. First one is, do I got to deal with the lumper? Because if I got to deal with the lumper, and I'm going to probably sit longer than I want to because I'm dealing with lumpers, I'm going to want a little extra money out of it. And again, so that's going to affect your rate negotiation. Now, the other one is detention. Do they want, what's the detention on it? Most are anything over 2 hours, there's detention, but you got to know what the process is. A lot of times they want, in and out times signed off by the consignee or the receiver, and a lot of times it's like pulling teeth to try to get that signed off on. But usually on the bill of ladings, I put, or the wife will put, an end time, and that way, I'm handing them the paperwork with an end time already on the bill of lading. And I've never had anybody not accept paperwork because I've done that. I'm sure that there might be one or two that might end up at one point not wanting to sign off on the paperwork just because I've done that. I haven't run into that issue myself. So you want to, for me, I want to know what the detention process is, what they're looking, what they're expecting, how long I have to wait for that to even become effective. And then once that's all good and done, generally they're going to ask you what your MC number is. Obviously I run under F2F, so I'm giving them their MC number, and they'll look it up in their system, make sure that everything's kosher, that there's a relationship there, that you're gonna, they're already, all the paperwork's been signed as far as working together. And at that point, they're going to ask you where they want the rate con set to. If you agree to everything, you're gonna, here they send a rate con to me in my email. I look it over, make sure everything's is as discussed. There's no surprises, because if there were, now we're going to have to call and have another conversation with the broker. And I haven't run into that either yet. So then I forward that on to F2F. They sign off on it, add their own load number, verify that the broker is not on hold because they owe money or anything business related that they deal with. And then they send it back to you with their own load number on it, which I put both F2F's load number and the broker's load number, which will be on the rate con. I put both of those on a bill of lading when I pick the load up. But yeah, I mean, once you're at that point, it's a done deal. You've done all that, and now it's time to just go do what we do, and that's pick up the load and deliver the load. So I mean, talking to the broker, you can Google it if you think that's might be something more you want to look at asking up front. There are some just Google questions to ask a broker when booking a load or something to that effect. And some people will have there are lists out there of the things you should ask. When I first started, obviously I was new at it. I wouldn't even think to ask if there's a lumper involved or anything else. At that point, my thing, call them, figure out the pickup and delivery window, and how much is it gonna pay me. But as you go along and you get more comfortable with talking to these brokers, again, it's just people talking to people. So I mean, no hard feelings. If you can't come to an agreement on a load, or something about the load you don't like and you decide not to take it, if you tell them no, or tell them thank you, I don't think I'll be wanting to pull this load, no harm, no foul, and you just move on to the next thing, and they're going to move on to the next thing. So I mean, it's just a conversation, and you're just trying to decide if you can come to an agreement. I actually called on a load one time. Again, we didn't end the phone call badly, but you'd have to run the load at night to make it happen. That's just the way the window worked with the hours of service. And I just told the guy, I'm going to be honest with you and up front. I'm not a night driver. I don't drive overnight, so I'm not going to be able to take this load. And he come back and says something to the effect, well, how do you figure? And I went through I went from picking up to delivering it. I said, I got 11 hours to drive. I said, if I pick it up because it picked up in the evening, I said, if I pick it up in the evening and I go shut down, and I said, it delivers the day after tomorrow, I said, there's no physical way to make that happen. I would not have enough hours to do it. And he thought about it for a second. Oh yeah, I guess I see it now. It just is what it is. I know me. I got a set schedule. I mean, I could probably flip my schedule, but it would take me a couple days to do that at this point. I prefer getting up early, getting it done, and getting shut down. But again, at the end of the phone call, not a big deal. Not a big deal. You have to be happy with what you're doing. You have to want to do what you're doing. If you're going to take a load and you're going to be irritated and miserable because it ain't what you want, don't take the load. That's all I can say in the first place. But dealing with the brokers is not a big deal. Just not. So I don't know if that answered your question. I hope it did. If not, and there's something more specific that you're looking for, just throw it in the comments, and I'll try to respond to it either on video or in the comments. There goes old Chevelle on a car hauler. But other than that, I'm going to get off here and call it a day. As always, I appreciate you guys taking time. Be safe. We'll talk to you.